Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. Like every year, today I may present my views on the Union Budget 2022 presented by our Finance Minister. To begin with, being a lawyer and being associated to the judiciary as well as to the law fraternity, I may begin with a very disappointing note which I have noticed since I have been analyzing budgets for the past 25 odd years, since I was in college. An important aspect is that none of the budgets for the past 25 years, and I believe even before, have ever provided any budgetary allocation for judicial development. There is no allocation provided for the development of the judiciary, which comprises of a very important wing of the state. The state comprises of the legislative, the executive and the judiciary. The judiciary is a part of the concurrent list of the Constitution of India, that is the third list, and despite which, when we keep on cribbing about the delay in delivery of justice, a number of aspects where judicial administration needs improvement, and on the other hand, there is no allocation in any budget for the judiciary. I put this question across to a very important person in the government last year, and he told me that, Mr. Chanderpal, why are you saying this? Because see, if any executive or legislature wants the judiciary to improve, he would be basically giving them more strength to get the legislative and the executive under scanner. Though he said it in a very jokingly way, but it made sense. It's very aghast to note that none of the budgets till now have provided any room or any expenditure for the judiciary and even for the development of the police. These are two important wings in our country, and judiciary is all the more important because it keeps a check. Now, apart from this, we start analyzing the budget. If one were to ask me, with great respect to the government of India, with great respect to the Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Damodar Modi, with great respect to the Finance Minister, and with great respect to both the houses, I may say that this budget is a miscalculated budget, and the bad effects of this budget are much more than the good effects of the budget. I am not going against the government. Neither am I having any grudge against the ruling party, because I don't belong to any party for the moment. Now, I may reason out what is the reason. The reason is that this budget basically begins with a note that we have attained a 9.2% growth. Now, 9.2% growth. In the first place, this growth figure is based on which price index? Is it based on the wholesale price index? Is it based on the consumer price index? Or is it based on the gross domestic product? And what does the gross domestic product include? And is it possible that in a COVID-19 pandemic phase, a country could attain 9.2%? I really doubt as to the statistical propriety of this figure of 9.2%. Now, assuming that this is a 9.2% growth rate is there, a high growth rate in an economy which is stagnating due to COVID-19 is not a good symbol. It basically shows that the inflationary pressures and the artificial expenditures and the inflationary pressures are very high. A 9.2% growth would spiral a very high rate of inflation in future. No wonder we are having petrol price rise hikes, and various price rises despite the pandemic. So 9.2% growth in a country where the taxpayer population is hardly 4% or 5% maximum, and in a country which still suffers from inequalities of income, this kind of a growth rate, all of a sudden a very high growth rate, is not a good symbol for any economy. Now coming to the budget, when I was watching the budget on 3rd February in my chambers, 1 hour to 1 hour 15 minutes with utter concentration, what I noted was every speech and every dialogue of the Honorable Finance Minister carries a thump on the desk. It was as if the thumbs on the desk are being made invariably without even appreciating as to what is being said and what would be the effect. The economy period was termed as Amrit Kal. Now, all the words which the PM has used begin with the PM fund or PM Gati Shakti. These things basically, I think, although it upholds the national spirit of Bharat, but these things, make it basically more of a publicity stance rather than professional budget presentation. My humble apologies for saying such a thing, but what I felt right, I have said it. Now, what we see in this budget is there is a tilt towards capitalization. I understand Mr. P. Chidambaram is in the opposition and has been aggrieved by the government, and I am till date a no party man. I don't belong to any party till date. What I found reasonable was his statement, instantaneous statement that the budget is capitalist. I'm not saying it is totally capitalist, but yes, it is to a large extent a capitalist budget. Now, the PM, the Prime Minister, of course through the Finance Minister, began with the farmers' policy and how the farmers would benefit with new technology, how the farmers would benefit with setting up of drones, how the farmers would benefit with millet farming and various other things. But with great respect, I may say, none of the benefits which were pointed out in the budget directly affected the आम फार्मर. जो आम फार्मर होता है, जो आम किसान है, उसको क्या benefit है? What is the benefit percolating to the individual farmer in all these things? All these budget allocations, technologies would basically be taken advantage of by the individual states, and whether those individual states would be passing it on to the normal farmer, that is very, very important. Irrigation projects, again, irrigation projects go on for long periods of time. What is the immediate benefit that the farmer was given in this budget? Nothing. Now, PM Gati Shakti scheme, it spoke about solar energy, spoke about battery recharging centers, spoke about the one stop, one rail and one product logistics, which have to be culled out in the near future. These are projects. These projects would go on for a long time. Of course, these projects would result in Atmanirbhar Bharat, but it's a long drawn project. In economics, we have a concept that once you project something above 1 year, you're basically playing with unpredictability. In the long run, we are all dead. Now, which aspects the Prime Minister of India had directed the Finance Minister of India, of course in a Union Cabinet meeting which they must have held, is to focus on certain areas. The banking sector, the nationalization part of the banking sector, which took a lot of efforts last year, all of a sudden seems to be abandoned. The privatization aspect of the nationalized banks, that seems to be abandoned. Now what happens to those reforms which were implemented last year regarding this? Nothing is stated about it. After this, the government has also concentrated too much on digitalization. Digitalization all over India, concept of digital money, crypto money, which means artificial money. Now, if you keep artificial money and digital money, let me tell you, the efforts of the government to reduce black money will be counterproductive, because crypto money as well as digital money will result in a float of unaccounted or artificial transactions in the country. Black money does not necessarily mean cash. Any money evaded, whether by way of holding cash or by way of accounting frauds or by way of accounting manipulations or by way of accounting entries, results in generation of black money. That's the precise reason we have section 68, 69A, B, C, D in the Income Tax Act 1961. Now, what else has been noted? That the MSME will give emergency loans to the MSME loan category. The banks would give the MSMEs emergency loan on COVID-19 pandemic priority. Fine. X amount has been released, thousands of crores released on that aspect. Finally, what happens? Is there any amendment in the Surfasi Act? If a person defaults in those payments, are there any amendments made in the Surfasi Act? Is there the time period under section 13(2) of the Surfasi Act increased? Is there any kind of a loosening of attachment procedures under section 13(4)? Finally, what happens? All these efforts of providing finance in a sluggish economy as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, number of small traders, even the higher middle income traders, coffee shops, departmental stores, food outlets like Subway, number of their branches have closed down. Now, when you pump in money for these projects on the account of COVID-19, then you must ensure that the banking laws such as Surfasi Act is also eased out. Where is that easing out? Where is the provisioning for that? Where is the provisioning for not declaring them as NPAs? Finally, what happens is the situation for the common man worsens. Now let us see too much of digitalization. Digitalization, introduction of 5G, in fact even 4G with the touchscreen cell phone that we used. As it is, a lot of data is invaded. The Information Technology Act has been violated completely. The information of even defense can be known to the other countries as a result of the touchscreen formality, because the touchscreen, even when your phone is off, the data is being robbed, the data is being stolen. A matter is pending at the Supreme Court and several petitions are being filed. Then where is the question of increasing any expenditure and making the country, even villages, being connected by 5G? Don't you feel that by so much of digitalization without any particular curbs, there will be a endemic danger prevailing all the time on the country and on the privacy of the data? Now, coming to another aspect which I noted was the aspect of direct taxes. Direct taxes, the fiscal deficit has marginally come down. On one hand, we talk about 9.2% growth and a marginal reduction in 6.4% of the fiscal deficit as a result of the calculations of the GDP. Now, these things both are contradictory. If there is growth, the direct taxes should be increasing. That is not so. Then we had comments on the rationalization of the surcharge. That was okay. That was a good aspect. Rationalization of surcharge was quite necessary for a long period of time. Then curb on black money. Curb on black money is a very, very ambiguous statement. Curb on black money has been stated by way of tax evasion. Now, tax evasion, there are so many ways. On one hand, your digitalization, and you're talking about crypto money. Crypto money, when blended with real money, will automatically result in tax evasion because the unaccounted transactions would stand increased. You may get them in tax scanner. Then the problem is very, very serious. It's not something very, very easy as it seems. Overemphasis on the private sector participation. The defense R&Ds have been given to private sector. When defense R&Ds are given to private sector, you stand to lose a lot of information which private sector people can impart to the rival countries. Then when the indirect taxes reforms were being introduced, Her Lady, our Honorable Finance Minister, stated about the January 2022 collections, and there was a furor in the House. A lot of people opposed it and in fact even decried this collection. It's not the GST collection. Please understand. The economy is reeling under pressure. Businesses have closed down. And the budget talks about 60 lakh new creation of new jobs. Where are these new jobs? When people are nowadays roaming around to find jobs. And on the other hand, when businesses are slack, the finance minister says that this was the highest or the number of a very remarkable collection in the GST. What does it indicate? It indicates that, don't get me wrong, I'm not against the government in any way. I am talking about the bad way of presenting this point. It indicates that on one hand, the economy has been sluggish, people have lost their jobs, and the GST has been collected forcibly from the subjects. These kind of things do not go well in the symbol of proper presentation of a union budget. With respects, I may say there was very little except some parts here and there now about the kids development, the child development, women development, Anganwadis to be created. All these things we have heard in plenty even when the PM relief fund for COVID was introduced. My own NGO, Nitya Law Society, we did a lot of food donation in remote areas in Thane, at Ganeshpuri, at New Delhi, at Calcutta, and in New Delhi we did it in areas like Najafgarh, where there was not even an iota of any kind of vehicle from the PM relief fund going over there. Now when you talk about Anganwadis, women upliftment, all these schemes which you're talking, and you're talking about the states participating with this, what are the inspection safeguards that these final benefits will reach the persons? In short, this whole budget which has been prepared, to my knowledge, would benefit the capitalist and the richer class more. I may beg pardon for being frank enough to call a spade a spade. In my humblest views, though humble but affirmative views, this budget is not regarded as proper economic planning. I hope and trust the government of India may take some bit of the advice from the clues that I have been indicating. Jai Bharat, Jai Hind, Vande Mataram.